Hello and welcome. Welcome to Chrissy's Astrological show on the last Tuesday of every month. So we are here yet again to talk about astrology and the celestial movements in the sky. And as always, I always have a very special guest. And today's very special guest is Deidre Wilton, who is a esoteric astrologer in Hawke's Bay, Napier, Hawke's Bay. She's a clairvoyant teacher of metaphysics over the past 10 years and has worked on workshops around the world, including New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, and Malaysia. So, Deidre, are you there? Would you like to say hello to everyone?
Yes, hi. Thanks, Christina, for having me on your show. It's lovely to be here. My name's Deidre Wilton, and I have a business called Starwise, Clairvoyant Astrology. So I do work similar to Christina, only I work on an esoteric level. And it's my main interest in astrology is being able to look at your soul's journey through lifetime after lifetime so that you can figure out what you're here to learn in every lifetime that you live.
That's great. So that's another level of astrology. Like people think, there's only just one way to do astrology. But as you and I both know, you can look at astrology, which encompasses almost everything in your life because the chart is your birth chart. So the esoteric or the soul's journey, that would involve all the karmic stuff and where your spirit's direction is this lifetime, plus some of your karmic lessons and, the journey towards that. Would that be correct, Deidre?
Yes, well, we're all souls reincarnating lifetime after lifetime, and we don't come back here with no plan. It's not just a haphazard thing where we arrive and we've suddenly just got to live a lifetime and then disappear again. There's a plan to everything that we do. Everything is predestined. So the more you can understand your astrological makeup, the easier that journey becomes for you, and the more sort of street signs you have along the way to help you to understand what you're choosing to learn this time around.
Well, that's right. And what's some of the comments that you get back from people that have come to see you, especially specifically coming for a spiritual or an esoteric reading? What are some of the feedback that you get from your clients and how you've been able to support them on their esoteric journey?
Well, for a lot of people, there's the wonderful aha moments where you suddenly realize why something that's been going on in your life forever and you've never been able to understand why, suddenly you can see why and what the reason for that is. And I think for most people, what I would like to think they get out of it in the comments I do get back is the amount of empowerment. I mean, when you can know and understand what you're here for, suddenly you have all this power. You're not just running around blind trying to make ends meet and trying to put one foot in front of the other. You've actually got a plan, and you can start to live and love your life the way you want to.
Exactly. And that's one of the powers and one of the gifts of knowing astrology. Have you found that learning the art of astrology has actually been quite insightful to your own life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first time I had an astrological reading and actually then read a written report about myself, I remember just sitting there looking at it and thinking, well, there's no denying any of this anymore. There it is in black and white right in front of me. And it was liberating and empowering at the same time. So it's like you kind of got to let yourself off the hook in some ways, but in doing so, you're letting yourself off the hook for being a type of person that you can finally understand why you are like that. And, we all are what we're born, but we have opportunities throughout our lifetime to change that or to enhance parts of ourselves that we like or get rid of parts that we don't like. And this is the whole learning process that we go through as beings on the earth plane.
Yes, so I come from a philosophy, and I've just written a book called Learn to Self-Heal, and that philosophy is right through my book. But I've just come from the philosophy that we are spirits in a physical body choosing to have a spiritual existence through the physical realm. Would you agree with that?
Yes, spirit having the human experience.
Yes, exactly. So hence, sorry, did you continue?
Yeah, and the reason for that, I mean, why we actually come down here to the earth plane from spirit to have this human experience is because when you're in spirit, all you have is love. That's all there is up there, and that's all that matters up there. But when you come down to the earth plane, we have this Pandora's box full of all these other emotions like jealousy, greed, anger, fear, all of those sorts of things. And so when we come down here and actually have a lifetime on the earth plane, by experiencing all of these emotions as a human being, you fast track your learning. So you can actually ascend and you can evolve as a soul a lot faster by having this experience down here.
And don't forget, this is the only place where you get ice cream and chocolate.
Yeah.
You know, that's very much part of the learning experience as well.
Yeah, and it's yes, and you can really tell with children, the new souls that are coming through. You can watch little children when they sort of first time they see a leaf on a tree or get to touch a shell on the beach, and they're, you know, it's fascinating for any child to experience that for the first time. But these new souls that are coming to the Earth plane at the moment, and have been for about the last sort of 15 years or more, you know, they're absolutely fascinated with everything to do with nature, because, as you say, with the chocolate and ice cream, is you don't get to experience that anywhere but here. The Earth, the planet Earth, is the jewel in the solar system.
Well, that's right, because, you know, as much as we have our lessons, we're also here to understand what joy is.
Yes.
Because joy is the connection to the heart, which is the connection to love, and whether that pleasure be through ice cream or relationships or living your passion or walking on the beach or just looking at a sunset, whatever it is, we're all, you know, all those experiences are all part of us being exposed to everything that integrates us and defines us as the best part of ourselves, hopefully towards the end of our days.
Yes.
Right? That was a mouthful. Don't ask me to repeat that. Okay, Deidre, today's a very special day.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy new moon to you.
Happy new moon in Aries. As astrologers, we are very aware of significant times and transits and planets, etc. And today is like the first day of the astrological calendar, because the first planet is Mars, ruled by Aries, the sign of Aries. And it's the new moon in Aries is like the significator or the turning point or the birthing of the whole year on the astrological calendar. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
You can add to that, Deidre. You don't have to. You don't have to wait for a question from me. Come on, you can add to that.
Okay, so as the moon goes into Aries, she's actually joining 4 other planets already sitting there. So that makes a line of 5 planets in Aries, which is pretty huge, really, and which means the Aryan energy is all about the head. It's about being headstrong. It's about thinking. It's about pioneering energy. It's about independence and sticking up for yourself. All of this going on. So it's quite a highly fueled time at the moment, where I think people, it's great for getting things done, but at the same time, I think people have to be very careful that they're not flying off the handle.
Yes, I agree. And Aries itself as a sign, being part of that cardinal cross that has been happening since 2008, a lot of people in the cardinal aspects, Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn, have been going through major change from the depths of their soul right through to the top of their physical bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's all been part of it. And with 5 planets in Aries in a new moon today, like the Aries energy around and is quite significant. And of course, we've got Uranus and Mars together. So it's like, you know, you do need to be very careful going out there, you know, saying what you don't mean and flying off the handle, as you were saying. Aries being a fire sign, very spontaneous and very inspired, and they say what they mean. And, you know, they do need to be a little bit more mindful around their energies, as they are Aries, or anybody that has very strong planets in Aries.
Yeah. I mean, Aryan energy being the first sign of the zodiac, anyone who's born in Aries or has a lot of Aryan energy in their chart will have this underlying belief or subconscious push underneath them, telling them that they have to come first and that has to be all about them because they're the first sign of the zodiac. And I often notice with children especially, is that if an Aryan child is not born the first child and is second, third or fourth in the family, they will often always have issues with their oldest brother or sister because they want that position, because underneath they feel it should have been them coming first because they're the Aryan.
Yes, and they are about being first, or not necessarily being, you know, they're very competitive. They like to win. They, you know, want to be the first person to climb on top of the mountain, and because they're very pioneering type people, very inspiring type people. And of course, this Aries new moon, which is all about the birthing. It's the new phase for the whole year. So I've just written on my Facebook page, www.facebook.com/astropath, ASTRO path, the new moon in Aries and some of the things that you can manifest and wish for the 12 months.
Right.
And of course, every month we have a new moon, and of course, next month it's in Taurus, and Taurus is about your own self-value and security and that kind of stuff, and then it goes into Gemini. And if you kind of use the new moon energies every month to sort of highlight your life and things associated with that month and work with that timing, it can actually support you quite well, don't you think, Deidre?
Absolutely. The only thing that's a little bit of a challenge at the moment, like normally with all of these planets sitting in Aries, I mean, astrologers like Christina and I would be saying to people, go for it. Whatever you've got planned or whatever you've been wanting to do, this is the moment to go for it. But the fact that within about a week or a little bit more, 2 weeks, Mercury is going to turn retrograde. And that's going to that will put a hold on anything that you're trying to move forward with. So I think though that what is helping us all at the moment is the opposition to Jupiter that some of these planets are forming, because Jupiter is sitting in Libra, which is all about everybody's rights being looked at. It's all about balance. It's all about equality and justice. And so that really powerful Jupiter energy is stopping Arians from being too headstrong or getting too wrapped up in themselves in their own special journey.
And that's a good thing.
Absolutely,
that's not necessarily a bad thing. That is a good thing. And I do concur with Deidre here. Mercury is all about, communications and wanting to move things forward and all the rest of it. And it's going to be retrograde until the first week of May from, mid-April. So,
It's 10th of April to the 3rd of May.
Yeah, so actually it's a good time to reform and research and check your facts and, put everything in order. So when these energies do go direct, and of course in June, planet Jupiter, which is currently retrograde, will be going direct as well, mid-June. So, the timing, everything is about timing. So if you use the planets for timing, for business, for trips, for buying property, for anything really, elective surgery, all these things, these planets can really, really support you in getting to where you need to be. And because you're not working against planetary energy, the flow is there. The flow and the ease is there if they have aspects to your birth chart. Now, that's the thing. Just because something is going forward doesn't mean it will work for you. It needs to actually spark off your birth chart, which is your natal map of why you're here, what you're here to do, and when basically you're here to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if the transits are all in flow, then you just find that things just go really easily without the energy of restriction. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, because it pulls you back a bit. It makes you refocus. It makes you relook. And sometimes it can, if something's not meant to be done in a certain way, in hindsight later, you kind of find out, oh, my God, I'm glad that didn't happen for me when I was trying to push for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, it's, but a lot of people, especially Arians, they say, oh, this is what I want. This is how I want it. And I want it now. I'm sorry.
And that's not going to work right now.
No, that kind of mentality is just not going to go forward. It's just going to be, okay, this is what I want and this is how I want it. Okay, and when it will work for me will be when it will work for me.
Yeah, and so timing is everything.
And timing is everything, and that is the art of astrology. It's all about the timing.
Yeah.
So the other thing, as you know, Deidre, Venus is also retrograde right now.
Yes.
And so of course, Venus goes retrograde, and it will go direct on round about the roughly mid-April. And of course, Mercury would have already been retrograde at the same time for about a week. So it's like, oh my God, that's going to be a huge week. That is going to be Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn all retrograde.
Yeah. So, but that, you know, and that's just another major message to all of us, that it is time to go within. It's not time to be going out there and making things happen. It's time to make sure you've got all your facts, that you've worked to be the best you can possibly be, that you're focused, you're disciplined, that everything, you know, you've got all your ducks in a row, and then come May, you could start to move forward again.
Yeah, and you know, and as you and I both know, it's all about the timing. So in your blog here, I've got that you work a lot with the archangels, the ascended masters. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, Deidre, in your work?
Yeah, with the ascended masters, probably more so than the archangels. When I was training and learning, I worked with the master Maitreya in particular, and with my own ascended master, who is the master El Moira. So the ascended masters are a group of energies that have all been to the earth plane at some stage in their existence, but most of them have only been here maybe once or twice. And what they've done is, from their experiences down here when they went back to spirit, they have made it their mission in life to protect the earth plane and to do everything they can to help and educate people on the earth plane. Because at the end of the day, the whole purpose of us being here is to live under the philosophy as above, so below. So we're trying to create heaven on earth, and the ascended masters are the energies that work the hardest for us in spirit to make that happen. So Buddha is an ascended master, Jesus is an ascended master, Mary Magdalene is an ascended master. There's a huge group of them at different levels of ascension. And yeah, they work very closely with lots of people here on the earth plane, and that's their work is to be that energy that adheres us and opens the veil between the spirit world and the earth plane.
Can you give me an example with a client that you've had change their names where this has come through and there's been an impact on that person's life?
Yeah, people who have, when I'm working and doing readings, because I work closely with the masters, they will come through me with messages for the people in front of me. And just a lot of the messages have been really about people allowing themselves to let themselves off the hook. That's probably been the most powerful thing, where people finally realize how loved they are, how they haven't done anything wrong, and how this is just a big experiment for you.
It's about actually allowing permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the masters will work with anybody. It's usually something you choose before you're born, whether you're going to work with a master or not. But they'll come to anyone at any time who's open and willing to receive their energy.
Great. So can you sort of explain to the show a little bit how the planets or the signs, you may do both or just, do whichever one you feel happy to do, how they differ from the mundane astrology that most people attach themselves to?
Okay.
Just a couple of examples. You don't have to do the whole zodiac.
Okay, I was just thinking, whoa, that's
hey, if you want to. We've got time. I mean, if you want to, knock yourself out there, Deidre. Do your best.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk through a little bit later as we discuss through Saturn and the signs, which will probably take a bit of time. So, no, one of the things I think, for instance, okay, if we'll go with using the sign of Cancer as an example. I'm a Cancerian, so it's probably the sign I know the best because I am one. So Cancerians in traditional astrology are known to be moody. They're known to be very sensitive. They're known to be creative, and they're known to be, very caring, nurturing people. From an esoteric perspective, the whole purpose behind their being, that moodiness and that empathy and the compassion that they feel for other people, it's because the Cancerians, when you're choosing to be born as a Cancerian, you're here to learn to do all of those things for yourself. So you come into this lifetime full of compassion and empathy for everybody else, but you aren't very good at looking after your own needs on that level. So when Western astrology or traditional astrology would say that a Cancerian is moody, what they're not saying is that they've shut themselves off until they're feeling safe enough to come out and play again because they've been hurt by something that's gone on. And also when they talk about Cancerians being very mothering and smothering to some degree with some people. It's all about this need to make sure that everybody's okay. So this is where this whole mothering nature thing comes from. So that's one of the ways that, from an esoteric perspective, we look at it differently, because we believe, esoterically, that every sign of the zodiac has brought with it a very specific lesson, in which that you've come to learn in this lifetime, because your sun sign is who you truly are. It's what your primary focus in this lifetime and what you've come to be. So when you come here, for instance, under the sign of Aries, your major life lesson as an Arian is to learn that life isn't a black and white thing, that you're here to learn about all the colour and all the grey areas in between, because there is no right or wrong, really, and there is no black or white. It's just different perceptions and different ideas, and to be accepting of that and be open to that and other people's viewpoints. So that's the main thing for the Arians. For Tauruses, many Taurian people live under the philosophy never forgive and never forget. Taurians find it extremely hard to let go of the past and to let go of any hurts or things that they perceive have been done against them or hurt them in this lifetime. They hold on to grudges longer than anyone you'll ever know. And they're very stubborn. So, normal astrology would sort of say that Taurians are very stubborn, and they are, but that stubbornness comes from an incredible sensitivity to being hurt. And so they have to learn forgiveness if they're able to move on, because without forgiveness, you get stuck. And as we also know, each sign of the zodiac rules a different part of the body. So Taurus rules the throat.
Yep.
Yeah, the rules the throat. Therefore, it's very easy for their truth and what they want to say to get very stuck in the throat area. So if you can't communicate, you can't forgive, and if you can't forgive, you can't communicate. So it's round circle. They're going round and round and trying to resolve that. Next is Gemini. So Gemini people are very mentally active, and so their major life lesson is to learn to finish what they start, but also to be prepared to go deeper. Gemini people like to keep everything on the surface, keep it nice, light and fun and entertaining. They don't really like to get right down to the depths of things. So they're here to learn to go deeper, and that it's safe and it's okay to do so. Cancerians are, of course, from an esoteric perspective, here to learn self-love over and above everything else, and to learn to validate themselves rather than waiting for everybody else to do it for them. Those souls born under the sign of Leo come here with a great need to lead, and they've got huge hearts, and most Leo people would do anything for anyone, but they love all the glory and the kudos that comes with it. So most Leos are here to learn to do things because it's the right thing to do, not because of all the glory it's going to bring your way. Then we have the Virgos. So esoterically, Virgo is the energy of perfection. So wherever you find Virgo energy within your natal chart is where you have a great need to be perfect. So if you're born as a Librian, you're born with this incredible need
Virgo.
to be perfect.
Born as a Virgo.
Yeah.
Yep.
A great need to be perfect. So you want other people to perceive you as being perfect, and therefore you put a lot of stress on yourself and often on those around you to adhere to very high standards that often aren't achievable, and therefore you make life very difficult for yourself if you can't see your own perfection. So as a Virgo, you're here to learn that you are already perfect just as you are, and you're already doing your best just as you are, so there's no need to involve all the stress with it as well. The next is Libra. So esoterically, Libra, as we know, is represented by the scales. So the major life lesson for all Librians is to find balance in every area of their life. Now, Librians are also what I call people pleasers. They go through life quite happy just to sit on the fence and sort of let life go by and to go along with what everybody else wants and needs. And because of this, they're very good counselors and very good mediators, but it often means that they don't get what they need for themselves out of life because they're too busy going with the flow, going along with what everybody else wants, that they forget that they have choices too. So for Librians, it's about learning to stand up and be counted. Stick up for yourself and ask for what you want in life. The next sign are the Scorpios. So Scorpio energy is the most intensely sensitive energy of the zodiac. So Scorpios, they work everything out in life by how it makes them feel, which isn't always a realistic way to be, because they can tend to overreact very quickly. So the biggest life lesson for Scorpios is to learn to stop and process what is going on before you react to it. That way you'll get a bigger idea of what's going on, and those around you will also get that as well. And then you can react, and you can negotiate, and you can talk, and you can have communication that isn't based on me hurting you and you hurting me. The next sign is Sagittarius. So Sagittarian energy is a very free and liberal energy. It's a fire sign, but Sagittarian people are similar to Geminis in that it's another very, very mentally active sign where they need constant stimulation and variety in life. The difference is that Sagittarians come here to master everything that they do. They tend to, have many different careers and skills in life, but they tend to be very good at each one of these before they move on to the next one. So the thing with Sagittarian people is that they hate to be controlled. They don't like anybody to tell them what to do or how to do it, but they can be extremely controlling themselves. So their major life lesson is usually here to learn to treat other people the same way as you yourself wish to be treated. And then we have the Capricorns. So Capricorn is the most stubborn energy of the zodiac. Capricorn people are very, very ambitious, and they always get where they need to go in life. However, they find it extremely difficult to trust. And the person they usually find that the hardest to trust is themselves. So I always encourage people with Capricorn children to encourage their children to just do it. I've met, for instance, many, many Capricorns who collect qualifications. They've got every degree and diploma and everything under the sun. But until they've collected all of that and completely trust that they've learned everything there is to learn, they won't actually put it into action or actually put it into get things going. So the quicker they can understand that you learn just as much from doing it as you do reading about it, the quicker they get on with their soul journey. So Capricorns are here to learn to trust over and above everything else. And then we have the Aquarians. So Aquarian people dance to their own drumbeat. They're here to be different to everybody else, and they're here to change the world. But ironically, the greatest fear of all Aquarians is change. They're terrified of change, and they're renowned for holding on to things way past their use-by date. And whether that's a relationship or a job or a cake or whatever it might be, they don't throw things out easily, and they'll just hold on to it because the fear of the unknown is too big for them to be able to conquer at times. So Aquarians are here to learn to love change and to embrace the fact that they're different to everybody else rather than running away from it. And then finally, we have the Pythians. So from an esoteric perspective, Pisces is the most spiritual sign of the zodiac. It's ruled by Neptune. And so most Pisceans are born mediums. They arrive here with a great attachment still to the earth plane, and it can be very, very difficult for them to let go. In fact, most children are between the ages of 6 to 8 before they realise that they're actually here, and that they're up until then they can be living sort of half in spirit and half on the earth plane. And around about 6 to 8 years of age, they actually ground themselves and realise that they're here. So for Pisceans, it can be very difficult to be here because that memory of being in spirit sort of stays with them their entire life. So again, Pisceans, a little bit like Librians, can be fence sitters. They tend to be very creatively talented people, or just very talented people, full stop, but they're not really that ambitious or that interested a lot of the time in doing anything with that energy. They're just happy to sort of sit and observe life going by. So for Pisceans, they're here to learn to enjoy their connection with spirit and bring that energy to the earth plane rather than trying to escape into la-la land or run away with that energy. They're supposed to integrate it here and be fully on the earth plane and grounded and ready for action.
Yeah, that's all good. Now, can I just ask you, you said about Pisces between the ages of 6 to 8, they have problems releasing themselves from the earth plane. Did you mean earth plane or spirit plane?
Sorry, spirit plane, yes. Yeah, problems releasing, sorry.
And that was why and then after that, they are aware that they're here and become integrated and they are more earth orientated.
Yeah, and so if you've got a lot of Piscean energy in your chart, whether it's your sun or other planets sitting in Pisces, I mean, I can remember, and I've talked to other people as well, who actually have a definite memory of that realization at around about the age of 6 or 8, that they're here, that they're actually alive and kicking on the earth plane. They're not still in spirit, or they're not just a fantasy. They're actually, flesh and bone, and they're here.
Okay, so that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Deidre. Now, your topic of the day, which we haven't even gotten to yet, but we will.
Yeah.
You know what it's like. We get started and off we go. Okay, you wanted to talk about Saturn. Now, Saturn is the Lord of Karma in the charts, and it is where you have your greatest teaching. Yes?
Yes. So Saturn is our teacher and our disciplinarian. So from an esoteric perspective, if I'm doing a reading for you or an esoteric astrologer is doing a reading for you, the first planet they will usually look at in your chart is Saturn, because where he sits in the sign that he's sitting in is going to show you where your greatest life lessons are in this lifetime and where your biggest fears lie. And the whole purpose of being on the earth plane and having a life here is to face what you fear, because when you face your fears, they go away. When you run around in fear of something all your life, it has incredible power over you and it stops you from moving forward. So we all choose every time, when we come down to the earth plane to have a life here, we choose where these greatest fears are going to lie and what we're going to do about them to conquer them in this lifetime. So I sort of liken Saturn to the teacher you had at school, who you may not have liked this teacher, but you had an incredible amount of respect for them, because now as an older adult looking back at your school years, you still remember that teacher, but you remember them for all that they taught you, not whether they were mean to you or kind to you, just about what they allowed you to learn in this lifetime. And this is exactly what Saturn's like. He gets a bit of a bad rap because he teaches us some pretty harsh lessons, but number one, we ask for them. And number two, if you just do what he says, he actually gives you some great rewards in life too. So the things that Saturn loves the most is discipline, hard work, and focus. So what we do is when we're, as esoteric astrologers or any astrologer, looking at your chart and your lessons of Saturn, we look to where Saturn's sitting in your chart to see what those lessons are going to be, where you're going to need to work the hardest and show the universe that where you're the most disciplined and you're prepared to be the best. Where those areas of your life are, looking at them, identifying them, and then starting that journey to learning what needs to be learnt there and facing whatever fears you have there. So as we know, the planets are constantly moving. So Saturn in particular moves through a sign approximately every 3 years. He will move from sign to sign. So
currently he's in Sagittarius. Saturn is in Sagittarius. Yep.
Yeah, and so Sagittarians, when Saturn sits in your own sign, in your own sun sign, it can be a pretty rough ride because he really is picking on you. It's all your turn. It's your turn to be picked on for the next 3 years. And it's interesting, I don't know I met one the other day. So Saturn has been in Sagittarius for just over 2 years, and he's got until the end of this year to stay in Sagittarius before he moves on into Capricorn. So nearly every Sagittarian I know has either been in hospital, been injured, or been sick in these last 2+ years. Have you had the same experience with Sagittarians that you've noticed, Christina?
Yes, as a medical astrologer, primarily a medical astrologer, although I do other types of astrologies, as you know, Deidre, the amount of people I have had coming to me with liver problems, issues around with depression, which is very Saturnian, just general debility in vitality, which is also Saturnian. It's like, it's almost every person I get in the door that have got an issue with their illness is a Saturn aspect, but by transit.
Yes, and it's interesting because when Saturn was moving through Scorpio, everybody, Scorpios and everybody was having issues much more to do with the heart. And now it's interesting that now it's going through Sagittarius, it's much more to do with your physical structure and your physical well-being as opposed to your emotional well-being. And I feel that once he moves into Capricorn at the end of this year, I think that physical structure and being strong enough is going to be a real feature for the next 3 years. But I think that's going to be another show we're going to have further down the track, Christina, when
don't worry, we ain't going anywhere.
Okay.
Now, the other thing also is when Saturn moves into Capricorn, it's in its own sign. Yes. So, you kind of think if you've got Saturn in your own sign or, it moves into your own sign, it would be not as strong, or because it's comfortable in its own sign. And ideally, that is usually the way it goes. But this is Saturn.
Yeah, exactly. And he takes no prisoners.
He takes no prisoners. So Saturn is going to do its thing. So I actually have Saturn in Capricorn myself.
Yes,
so
I noticed that, yeah.
Oh, you didn't know, did you?
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Well, you know, it's, okay, so I started looking at my chart saying, wow, you got Saturn in Capricorn in its own sign. You know, that must be pretty comfortable. No, it wasn't.
No.
It was huge learning lessons around that.
Yeah.
But the fact that I've been able to integrate that Saturn because I understand that Saturn.
Yes.
So that's where it works for me now. And it's like, you know, now I kind of get that, you know, being the oldest and doing all the, you know, again, Saturn is the oldest child, taking all the responsibility, doing it all for everyone else, with the opposite of, you know, the polar opposite of Cancer. It's like, you know, doing it all for everyone else and not for themselves. And it's now in my later life, the lessons I learned from my Saturn as a child was all about the responsibility and the planning and the timing and how to get things completed. And as an adult, I have really, really benefited from the Saturn, the painful Saturn experiences I had to grow into as a child.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it takes Saturn 28 to 30 years to get from where he starts off at the very beginning in your birth chart or your natal chart at the time that you're born. It takes him 28 to 30 years to get from there all the way around through all the houses in the astrological chart back to that point again. So between the ages of 28 and 30, you go through what's called your first Saturn return. And it is a huge wake-up call. I don't know anybody in all the readings I've done and all the people I know who between the ages of 28 and 30 hasn't had some significant event in their life happen. And what this is doing, it's all about Saturn waking you up to the fact that you are an adult and it's time to take responsibility. So from an esoteric perspective, we don't actually believe you are an adult till you're about 28 to 30 years of age. And something significant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you might get married at that age. You might have your first child. You might change careers. You might. My father died when I turned 30. No, really big things happen to just really wake you up to the fact that this is your life. You're in charge. What are you going to do next? And so, as we've said, the planets are constantly moving. So Saturn, after the 28 to 30, he continues that circuit and he does another circuit through all the houses in your chart. So at approximately 58 to 60, you are going through your second Saturn return. Now, ideally, by this time you reach this age, you should have learnt most of your life lessons. You've had 2 goes at them and you should have learnt some of them. Okay, we don't really expect you to learn all of them. It would be great if you have, but you know, we're not the greatest learners on the earth plane. We're a bit slower on the uptake. And therefore, around about 58 to 60, you should get your greatest life rewards if you have learned all your lessons. And those rewards, and just as the lessons were, will all be to do with a specific area of your life where Saturn was found at the moment of your birth.
That's
it just depends on where it is, and everybody's natal chart is different. So, he really is the big player. But the thing with Saturn is he is your friend if you're just prepared to work with him. He's here to help you combat your fears. So the worst thing you can do is have fear of him. You need to have huge respect for him, but you don't need to have any fear because he is on your side. He just wants you to be the best that you can possibly be. And as human beings, when we come to the earth plane, we're not very fast learners, as I said before, and we tend to learn everything in life through how hard it is rather than through how good it is. So, for instance, if you've got Saturn in your first house in your chart, the chances are you have a lot of life lessons to do with self-love and self-worth. Therefore, you will learn those lessons through people putting you down, treating you badly, and basically not being very nice to you. That's how you're going to learn those lessons, because really, if someone tells you you're wonderful all your life, you don't actually learn an awful lot from that. But when you learn what it's like to have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and hold your head high no matter what you've been through, then you're learning and then you move forward.
So true.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a very powerful guy, but he is our friend. So your Saturn in Aries is all, for instance, if your Saturn sits in Aries, it's all about learning to be self-reliant in life. And what he's doing is he's taking all of that headstrong energy and he's making you use it for a focus instead of blasting off or reacting instantaneously to anything that's said or done. It's all about you trying to focus this amazing energy you have as with this Saturn and Aries to move forward and to be a pioneer without any fear that you're not being recognized or that you can't have your own way. When Saturn sits in Taurus, he loves you to live by the rules, and because Taurian energy loves security. So when the big guy steps into this energy of security, he can get very confusing, because a lot of people with Saturn in Taurus have a lot of problems understanding the difference between overwork and underwork. They're either complete workaholics or they sit on the couch, and they find it very difficult to find that middle ground in the middle there to just work hard, do your best, and carry on. So they can also find it extremely difficult to put a worth on themselves, especially if they're self-employed or working as a contractor or having to bill other people for their services. They can find it very, very difficult to put a price on that.
Yep.
The Saturn in Gemini, people with Saturn in Gemini often doubt their own intelligence. They're so busy thinking all the time that their thinking makes them compare themselves to others, and it keeps their mental energy very much on the surface and very light. So it's that fear of going deeper, which is one of their life lessons as well with their sun placement. Saturn in Cancer constantly seeks validation and approval. So it's very important for anyone with Saturn in Cancer to learn to do as much nurturing and give as much compassion and love to themselves as they're automatically giving out to everybody else. You're here in this lifetime to learn to love yourself. First and foremost, number one rule of spirituality, there is nobody more important in the world than you. Your Saturn in Leo. Now, people with their Saturn in Leo really crave that admiration and the glory that they can get in life. So they tend to do things in life just so that people can think that they're wonderful and tell them that they're wonderful. And, they're constantly seeking approval from other people. So really, with that Saturn in Leo, it's very much strong lessons in doing what's right, not what's going to bring you all the glory that you feel you need. With your Saturn in Virgo, people with their Saturn in Virgo are incredibly responsible, and they take life very, very seriously. They're here to achieve a lot, and they're very capable of achieving a lot, but that achievement can come at a very high cost, because they can cancel out all fun, all spontaneity, and all just good times in life on this absolute mission to be successful and to be all that they feel that they need to be. So, yeah, it's about, with your Saturn in Virgo, it's about just not sweating the small stuff so much and loosening up. With your Saturn in Libra, equality and balance are extremely important for you, but it can be a real challenge for you to find that balance in your life. You can really swing like the proverbial pendulum from extreme to extreme until you find that equilibrium where you can meet other people halfway, and also in doing that you encourage them to meet you halfway, and suddenly everything does become a lot more harmonious than how it was before. With your Saturn in Scorpio, you're here to learn how to use your power appropriately. People, because Scorpio energy loves power, and when Saturn sits in that Scorpio energy, it really has this need to understand everything, to get to the bottom of everything, to know everything. But, in life, there's some things that we should get to the bottom of, and there's things that we can just leave be. And it's all for the people with Saturn and Scorpio. It's all about learning to pick your battles and to know that there's a challenge to get where you need to go, but you don't need to step on everybody to get there. You can just do it with your power, with your insight and your intuition. Saturn and Sagittarius, which is what we're dealing with right now, is the challenge with Saturn and Sagittarius is that they want it all and they want it now. So the purpose of this transit that we're going through at the moment, so for the last 2 years, just over 2 years, and until the end of this year, we've all been encouraged to be the absolute best you can be at what you do best. So whatever it is where your natural talent lies, or what you know that you're very, very good at, this has been your time, and it's still going on, is your time to actually be be the best you can possibly be. And then come the end of this transit, you'll be in a really good space and position in life to start building on very solid concrete foundations, because you've done all your groundwork. Saturn in Capricorn, again, it's another similar to Saturn in Virgo, another placement where you take life extremely seriously, and you really need to learn to have more fun in life. It can be a very ruthless placement. You want to get to the top, you're extremely ambitious, and you really don't care how many women and children you trample on to get there. So it's very much about learning you can get where you go without having to do all those things. So just to see that life doesn't have to all be about success and power, you're allowed to have some fun along the way too. Saturn in Aquarius. Now, Saturn in Aquarius wants to have it all, but it doesn't really want to do a whole lot to get there. So people with Saturn in Aquarius find it very hard to take a back seat to what's going on around them, but they haven't really often done the work that allows them to take the lead. So it's about learning that if you want to go through life just observing things and being on the outskirts, then that's fine, but don't expect to be able to take over at any time because you haven't done your groundwork. So it's about you learning to do what is necessary for you to get where you need to go in life. And finally, when Saturn sits in Pisces, it's extremely creative and very resourceful, and it's the sign of the survivor. However, it can come at an extremely high personal cost because you're so sensitive. So yes, when your Saturn sits in Pisces, you will always survive. There's no doubt about it. But you mightn't be very happy, or you mightn't have a lot of joy, and you might just find that life is just continually one battle after another that you come out on top of, but it gets very hard for you to be able to just relax and kick back and have some fun too. So would you agree with all of that, Christina? Hello?
Okay. I think now, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
did we go offline?
No, we didn't go offline. It was all fine. No, it's all good. And yeah, especially that Saturn and Pisces, it kind of wears the body down, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's hard. You're creative, and of course, Saturn rules in Pisces is deficiency in the immune system. So working hard just to survive, you wear yourself down. You become fatigued. You're tired all the time. It's like, just can't get up and do it all over again, But you do get there. But knowing,
incredible resilience with it.
It is a lot of incredible resilience. But the Saturn is. I love the way you explained everything on the esoteric astrology side. But just to add, in medical astrology, where your Saturn sits is where one of your weaknesses in your body is. So you can actually knowing your Saturn on many different levels is very important. Like if you knew it medically as well as esoterically, you can work with it, and then medically you can support that part of your body that where the Saturn sits to strengthen that body, to keep that part of your body well and healthy. So Saturn can't do the physical damage, or minimizes, I should say, the physical damage to that part of the body where it sits.
Yeah, and the other beautiful thing about combining medicine and astrology together, and especially esoteric astrology, is because, we're all very aware of how, what you think is what you create. So when something physically goes wrong with your body, you've got your chart to look at for insights into what your Saturn might be doing or what might be going on for you planetarily that's affecting you physically. But it's also that awareness of whatever sign that Saturn or whatever is sitting in your chart is creating an emotional response to whatever's going on in your life, and that in turn can then affect you physically. So with Saturn and Pisces being such an incredibly sensitive, emotionally sensitive sign, it only makes sense that they're survivors because they have to continually emotionally pick themselves up and be strong, and therefore the body reacts in kind to that. It gets depleted and gets tired, but it will still pick you up and carry you through.
That's correct. So, Deidre, please let us know how our listeners can contact you through Facebook and.
Sure. So I have my Facebook page is /Facebook///Starwise. So that's STARWISE, Clairvoyant Astrology. And I also have a website, www.starwise. Now, Starwise is spelled STAR-WISE, and my website is .co.nz. So there's lots of information there about the readings and the workshops that I teach. I specialize in astrology for children because it's been my belief since the minute I started learning about astrology that all parents should have a little chart and a little booklet for their child so they can understand who they've brought into this world and how to best guide that child through their lifetime. So you're not trying to make a mathematician out of an artist. A child has chosen their life before they're born. They've chosen their gifts and their talents and all that they're bringing with them. And so when a parent or a caregiver can see what sort of a little person they're dealing with, they can guide that person and they can make sure that they get the support that they need in the areas that they need, and just help them if they're a little bit shy to come out of their shell, if they've got health concerns, to be aware of that from the beginning, that they might have a weakness in some part of their body that would be better off taken care of while they're little rather than waiting until they're adults. All of that's in that. So there's information on my website all about that too. So that's www.starwise-co.nz.
Deidre, I do tend to agree with you. Working with children's chart is really quite a powerful tool for parents. And it's very enlightening for teenagers, like especially when it comes to, like, oh my God, don't know what to do with university. I've got so many things in my mind, especially with planetary transits. If you've got a Neptune or Uranian transit happening to your chart or happening on something specific, then you can actually be very, very confused around choices that you make. We have a few minutes left. If there are any questions for Deidre or for myself, please let us know. So Deidre, while that's happening, can you have you noticed that over the years that we know that every generation we get a new type of children that come through, like it's a Pluto cycle, as you know. Yes. And we've had the indigo and the rainbow children and the crystal buds and all the rest of it. But have you noticed that each generation of children, there's something very specific and very special about the kids that come through?
Absolutely. And actually one of the other generational planets that I feel is very much affecting all these new souls is Uranus. The Uranus and Aquarius children are quite something. They really are. They think way outside the box, and they really are the forerunners for who are going to change the world for us. So they're all born between approximately 1995 and 2000. Yeah, round about. Oh no, it's a 9-year transit, isn't it? So maybe a bit earlier than that. So about 1994 through to about 2001. And
all good. Have a question from Terry. How can we turn these retrogrades around to help rather than hinder? Now that's an excellent question, Terry, because the retrogrades are needed. So we either stop, pause, reflect, really look into things, and they can be used to help. I find myself when Mercury is retrograde, maybe because I have Mercury in my chart as retrograde as well, but I find that when Mercury is retrograde for me, I actually come up with some of the most amazing ideas. And I write them all down, and then when Mercury goes direct, I put some of these ideas either in process or discuss them with people that might come on board with me or put them into action. And that's just an example of how you can use a planet in retrograde. So what are your views with the Saturn? What about when Saturn goes retrograde?
Well, I just think when the planets are retrograde, just look at it as a time out. It's just giving you time out to actually rethink, reassess, relook at what you're doing or where you're at before you take another step forward. So it's actually really powerful to be able to just take some time to think about things instead of permanently being on forward motion, trying to make things happen, trying to keep going. It's like a time out. So when Saturn goes retrograde, he's all about discipline and focus. So I think that when he goes retrograde, it is a chance for you. It sort of relieves the energy a little bit more from you having to be as disciplined. And he's sort of saying, just have another think, have another look at what else you might be missing or what else you might need to do some work on, and get off the what we want to call it, one of those walking things that don't stop. What are they called?
One of those walking things,
those exercise walking things. It's time to get off that and actually have a think about what your next step is going to be, and then hopping back on again.
As Terry says, people can't put their lives on hold.
No, they can't.
No, and it's not about putting your lives on hold. It might be about, you might want to get a new car. It wouldn't be ideal under a Mercury retrograde, because Mercury rules cars. Or if you want to take a trip, it doesn't mean that you don't take the trip. What it means is that you double check that your plans are in place, that your tickets are in place, the amount of cancellations under a Mercury retrograde, the amount of people that lose their bags, the amount of people who lose their passports. It's just about due diligence. It's just about being extra aware around these times. It's not about putting your life on hold. It is just about being extra focused that, these things, there will be possibilities and opportunities because of the energy. And if you're working with the flow of that, then that's fine. But if you're trying to push the energy, then chances are there are going to be more problems than not.
Yeah.
There's definitely a question from Sharon here. Why is it that people ignore the astrological signs in life when it's so obvious we are guided by the whole movement of the planets? Your thoughts, please, ladies.
Well, I think because we've all got different belief systems. We all have different things that are important to us and that aren't. And so, for those people who do look above and look to the planets for guidance and interpretation of what's going on, good on you. I think, you're giving yourself an extra bit of courage and an extra bit of help. People who don't use anything else and just sort of go from day to day relying on themselves and what's going on is sort of working to a bit of a disadvantage, would be my theory on it.
But it's also what you need at the time. As you become more aware, you also become more aware of things that we have in our life that are here to support us through our process. And whether you take it on or whether you don't take it on, it's not a bad thing, in my opinion, or a good thing. It's just a choice. It's a choice on how you want to live. So as you become more conscious, more things come to you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciated your thoughts for Terry. Thanks for answering. Our pleasure, Terry. Pleased to have helped. Deidre, wow, what a whirlwind. Wonderful having you.
Oh, lovely to be here, and I'd love to speak to you again sometime.
Yes, not a problem. Just let us know what else you would like to talk about. As you know, astrology is such a huge subject. Oh, one of the things I was going to mention about the Saturn before we signed down, you were talking about the Saturn return in individuals, but Saturn return also applies to companies.
Yes,
like if you can survive a Saturn cycle, which is, as she was saying, 28 to 30 years, then that company is in pretty good nick, Yeah. Like if so. Before you go investing your money out there, people, make sure the company's been around for at least 30 years.
Yeah, tried and true.
Because businesses, like individuals, are an energy that go through their trials with Saturn and other planets like we do.
Actually, I'd be more inclined to go investing in a company that's been around for over 30 years, so they've survived their Saturn return as well. Exactly.
Well, that's what I meant. At least 30 years, but preferably over. Okay, we would like to thank everybody for listening to Astrology with Chrissy, and also to my very special guest, Deidre Wilton, who's based here in Napier, Hawke's Bay, I should say, New Zealand. And as everybody knows, this show is on every month, at the end of the month, the last Tuesday of every month. You can tune into SOC Radio. You can contact SOC Radio through Spiritualist Online. Add Circle of Mediums to your Skype if you wish to be a part of the show. And spiritualistonline.com can give you the links to all the other radio accesses so you can listen to the show. My next guest in end of the month next year, boy, am I going ahead of myself, next month I should say, is the veteran astrologer from Wellington, New Zealand, Jill Griggs. She will be talking about the moon in the natal chart and how your fundamental needs in life are met, and how you can understand your needs based on your moon sign in your chart. So that will be a very, very exciting session, I feel. No, Jill is wonderful. She and I, we do a lot of work together. We do a lot of work together on the lower half of the North Island here in New Zealand, and we just love doing the work, you know. So again, very special thank you to my very special guest, Deidre Wilton, and thank you for having us, and thank you for everyone who took time out to listen today. I hope some of your questions were answered and you have become a little bit more aware around astrology and the cycles of life. And basically, if it doesn't flow, don't go.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Blessings
Thanks,
to you
Christina.
all.
Bye-bye.
No problems. Bye.